Hi, welcome to Lecture 7B. What we're going to be looking at is a typical 12-mark question that has come up in previous years, and it follows on from Lectures 7 and 7A of what we're looking at in terms of stress management. So, the first things first is, again, always use the space that they tell you that you can use to plan your answer. I've used exactly this. I've done everything from memory in terms of drugs. I've even used my mnemonic, so Buster Zit Girl and Big Brother awards. Yes, I've used those to help me try and remember stuff. And I've also highlighted a BZ equal GABA, chloride iodines. Yeah, I've done all my briefings. So this really takes you like 2 minutes to do, or 2.5 minutes. Yeah, please do it. It is really important. And then I can start off with my main essay. Now, I'll start off by just very briefly detailing that there are the biological methods, drug therapy, and psychological methods, stress inoculation therapy, SIT. Yeah, so both methods help to alleviate the negative effects of stress. There's a brief introduction here. You don't really need to go to town on there. It's not really necessary. Um, Also, in terms of have you noticed that stress inoculation therapy, when you say a particular name of something and it's quite long and you don't want to keep writing it out, you can write it out one first time and then afterwards you can do it as an abbreviation. So that actually should be fully an abbreviation, should be in brackets, but it doesn't matter for now. Okay, so now I can use SIT. So anti-anxiety drugs. So this is basically now me starting with anti-anxiety drugs, and I start talking about benzodiazepines. Again, in brackets, I put BZ. So from now on, I can start using BZs. So I explain, for example, what BZs actually do in a bit more detail. I said that GABA is responsible for calming the body down, and it's a natural calming agent or chemical in our system. And I explain what happens there. So all of this here would be part of my AO1. Okay. Then I go on to talk about the second type of anti-anxiety drug to give them a bit more information. I talk about beta blockers, again abbreviated it to BBs. So now I can use BBs all the way through, and I've basically explained what BBs do about binding to the cells of the organs that are stimulated during a fight or flight response. Okay, so you can read that as well. So I'm not going to read it for you, but again, all of that will be my AO1 points. And then I go into evaluation, so the problems with using drug treatment. I've explained the problem, side effects, um, addiction, and I said not being able to really cure the symptoms, but not the actual cause of it. So all of this here, my limitations, will be my AO2 for drugs. Oh, sorry, what have I done there? Yeah, so this will be my AO2 for drugs in terms of problems. And then I'll briefly talk about strengths of drugs, very briefly, that it can be taken daily, ease of use and time, that it's generally free, or if you get on NHS at reduced cost. So it's quite cost effective as well. So that would be part of my AO2 as well. Then if you remember, the question said, just quickly go on, the question said, discuss two or more. So I decided to do one biological and one psychological. But if you wanted to, because it didn't say that you have to talk about both, you could talk about um, two psychological if you don't like all the biology on it. So you could talk about stress inoculation training as well as hardiness training. But I just say, just for this particular essay, I'm doing one of each. Yeah. So you can actually get away with that if you don't like biology. But I'll just say just do one of each if you can. That's probably my preferred method. On the other hand, so I use a connective here to link my paragraphs together, psychological methods, and also have a use in terms of alleviating the negative effects of stress. And then I start talking about stress inoculation therapy in terms of child support agency. So remember my mnemonic being conceptualization, skills, acquisition, and application. So all of this here will be my AO1, my knowledge and understanding. So let's put this here, the yellow. Oh gosh, going up a bit fast. Okay, so that will be my AO1. And then what I do is I start looking at my limitations of the SIT therapy in terms of terms of commitment, that somebody will have to be taking that on as an additional commitment, and it's an issue, especially if they have a lot more issues in their work and home life as well. In terms of the time it could take potentially because of individual differences, this time, for example, could take months or years for certain people. It can be very, very costly if done privately. You can do an NHS, but very, very long waiting list, and the problems will still be there. And again, it's all about an individual being motivated to do this type of therapy in the first place. Yeah, some people just want to pop a pill. Yeah, let's be frank. And again, not everyone's going to feel comfortable by disclosing their issues to strangers, the therapists, because they have to develop some kind of relationship. So all of that here will be my AO2, and then my strengths. However, um, it cures both the symptoms and the causes as well, and it can help deal with other potential stressors. So basically, you're protecting yourself for other things that can happen in the future. And then the evidence that SIT has been more successful than standard systematic desensitization. So that would be my AO2 as well. And then I've got a nice conclusion. So I've talked about two different stress management techniques. I've evaluated them both in terms of their strengths and weakness, and I've come up to a nice conclusion about how um, healthcare professionals, they need to be aware that not every type of therapy is going to work for different types of people, that some people are going to be really busy to go to some kind of therapy, so maybe drugs will be more beneficial for them, and a later date when they're able to have less commitments, they can do that kind of therapy, so vice versa basically. So it's all about you thinking what you can now do, or what we can now improve in society based on what we spoke about in our essay. And that is probably the best way to do a conclusion, but very important that you do a conclusion, because it does add up to our AO2 skills. So I'll put that as a blue as well. Okay, so overall that will be an A grade answer. Okay, any questions, do please leave a comment for me, and I'll try my best to get back to you and answer it. Okay, so my final lecture will just be a recap of the whole of stress, because we've looked through um, all the different topics of stress. If you haven't, go back from lecture one. So I do 1A, 1B, etc. Yeah, so go through all the lectures and make sure you know your key studies, and make sure you know how to evaluate them. Don't go overboard. Just stick to the method that I told you to, and you should be absolutely fine in an examination.